Fill up those flyers for you if you want to put them in.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Village of Westport Committee of the Whole meeting on Tuesday, February the 10th, 2026 at 5 p.m. And we are in council chambers and we'll call this meeting to order.
We will begin this meeting of the Committee of the Whole by acknowledging that we are meeting on Aboriginal land that has been inhabited by Indigenous peoples from the beginning. Long before today, as we gather here, there have been Aboriginal peoples who have been the stewards of this place. In particular, we acknowledge the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Wendat, and Haudenosaunee peoples.
Thank you very much, Councillor Aragona. That takes us to item number 3, which is the adoption of the agenda. It's moved by Councillor Card, seconded by Councillor Crapper, that the agenda for the Committee of the Whole meeting held on February the 10th, 2026 be adopted as presented. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Any declarations of conflict or pecuniary interest today? Okay, seeing none, well, I'm very happy to welcome the CEO of Perth and Smith Falls District Hospital, Michael Cohen, to come to the podium. It's always a pleasure to have you in our council chambers. As you move around Lanark and Leeds Grenville, remember this is the most welcoming, the happiest council that you're gonna meet.
I so far agree. I'll say that to the end.
Yeah, right, okay.
Yeah, no.
Please, go
And
ahead.
thank you, Mayor Jones,
Thank you.
and for council and staff for giving me a bit of time to talk about one of your local hospitals. So the purpose of coming here today is simply to give you an update on it. I know you're probably more, your affinity is probably more to the Perth campus, given the proximity, but we are 2 sites, 1 hospital, and we serve the broader region proudly. So we're very happy to be able to give you just a brief update on the comings and goings of the hospital. So I'll just, if I can just, go to the next slide. So at our hospital, we do have a strategic plan like most places, and for us, or for me in particular, the goal is to make it practical. Like the book that sits on the shelf that people refer to at the annual general meeting, that's not for me. So you can see that we have a number of pillars or priorities that are probably unsurprising or very typical to a hospital. We take those and we make it real. So if we go to the next slide, what we're working on this year is making that advancing care at our hospital. So one of our key ways we're doing that is we're improving best practices by looking at things like efficiency, a new model of care. So we're supporting our nursing team to provide structured care so that every patient every time gets the same level of care and the amount of care that they deserve based on the structure that we've defined. We're looking at enhancing patient engagement. Some of that's through electronic means, like we're actually launching a patient portal so that patients have access to electronic information. If you want to look at your medical records, soon you'll be able to use a secure website to be able to access that, so you know what's going on, and also to advance our hospital redevelopment project. So the last project that was completed at our hospital was for the Smith Falls site, and that was completed in 2010. We started early 90s. That gives you a sense of the time horizon sometimes that can take place. So that's why it was very important. Is actually one of the first things that I started working on when I came to the hospital in 2021 was to start to advance the next phase, which I'll talk about in a little more detail a little bit later. So you probably heard us in the news over the Christmas season. We had a very, I'll be honest with you, a very dire patient flow problem that was experienced by most people in the province of Ontario. We got hit very hard by our flu season, and the hospital was very nearly overrun and overwhelmed with patients, not just people coming to our emergency department, but patients that were then from the emergency department requiring a bed. So at one point, I think we were at 150% occupancy, which is not just making use of what we call unconventional spaces where we've converted appropriately. Let's say an office that used to be a patient room 30, 40 years ago and reconverted it back into a patient room. But we had people in the hallways, people in front of nursing stations, a very dire situation. So we call that our code orange. And I think we have an emergency management system, and one of those codes is the code orange is for typically an external disaster, and we flip that around. We call it internal code orange, which is obviously for an internal disaster. And it was really to signal not just to our community partners, but also to the community that we had a very serious problem. We were able to overcome that. Now we're just at our normal rate of operating at between 110 to 15% occupancy every day, which is lovely, right? I never would have said that a couple of years ago. Next slide, please. So recruitment and retention, just in terms of, so most will remember, that we did actually close our first emergency department in the summer of 2022, due to an unexpected shortage of staff. So it was sort of we were at the front end of a wave that saw a wave of retirement that was probably about 5 years earlier than predicted, largely due to the end of the pandemic. So you can imagine the exhaustion, the overworked nurses and doctors, and that held on. And then as soon as the pandemic started to recede, they retired earlier than expected, and that led to an HHR crisis, or a health human resource crisis. So good news is that for most full-time positions, we're able to recruit people, where we still have significant challenges for the part-time positions or the temporary full-time positions. So covering for maternity leaves is a big issue, because we've recruited. We have a great complement of full-time staff that are all in their childbearing years. And so we went from having a staff that had finished, let's say 6-7 years ago, that had their families and put them through college or getting them through college. Now we have brand new people that are all starting that cycle again, which is wonderful. And we are very happy to support them. But the unfortunate side of that is that for any leave, whether it's maternity, sick leave, leave of absence, is very difficult to get someone to work in a more rural setting for only not a full-time position. So we continue to work on it, but I want to leave you with the fact that we have had some success, compared to even last year, where our full-time positions are mostly full, which is great. You would mostly probably go to the PERS site. So if you're at our PERS site, some of the new things that we've done the last year is on our 3rd floor, we have a brand new nursing station that supports a more modern workflow. I would call it very vintage. So if you saw the operating environment for some of our nurses, you'd say, get my platform shoes and my bell-bottom jeans and work at the nursing station. Now it supports the modern work environment, which includes electronic information, computers, workstations, etc.
Amy, do you know what he's talking about? Do you know platform shoes and bell bottoms? I've heard of them.
Look at her sweater.
Does anyone still have a blue sweater? That's right, yeah. So that's been replaced. It was significant. It sounds simple, like you just put in a few desks, but these are built-in cabinets, purpose-built for infectious prevention and control and cleaning. So that's on. And then at our Smith Falls site, we've expanded a very small footprint of space in the Smith Falls Emergency Department, and completely renovated our resuscitation area, which is bringing our ability to deliver best practices. So these would be things that it looks new, but some of the things where we spend a lot of money on things you can't see, like, state-of-the-art reverse flow air handling. So if someone comes in with a respiratory, you can flick this on, it brings in fresh air, and it vents out anything that needs to stay under the rest of the emerge out into the atmosphere safely. So that's what you would expect in a normal resuscitation area, and now we're able to provide those services. And then, of course, in October, we were very pleased to be funded by the province to expand our MRI hours from 8 hours a day to 16 hours a day. So now we're scanning from basically 8 until 11:30 at night.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And you can see our wait times for MRI have gone way down as a result, which is great. It's coming up to the end of this fiscal year, but I'm proud to say that the previous fiscal year, we were able to basically balance our books. Our hospital does have a funding issue, so we are underfunded for the services that we provide, and we're working closely with the government to rectify that. Last year, we were able to get about $17 million over and above what we normally are budgeted for to balance our budget. Most of that was one time, and so we're right back at it this year, working with the province to ensure that gets rectified going forward. Okay, but very happy to see that budget balance from last year. Next slide. So as I said, we're working on a redevelopment plan. I'm sorry, can you see the slide? Okay. The process for hospital redevelopment is very regimented and prescribed by the ministry. There are 3 broad stages, each with multiple stages within each phase. And the purpose is to ensure that the development plans are appropriate for the community's needs now and into the future, and also to make sure that we don't have frivolous and spastic expansion. It has to be logical and fit into a broader plan. So as I said, one of the first things I did when I came to the hospital was to do the first step, which is called a pre-capital submission, which basically signals, hey, we want to do something. And now in the spring, you can expect, maybe not all of you, but you can expect to be solicited to participate in some focus groups that will go into the next stage, which I'll talk about on the next slide, which is called, the next phase of early planning is called master planning, master programming. So as I said, we've done the pre-capital, we did that we submitted it, and it was accepted in 2023. And then we're gonna get into master planning. So the easy way, the layman's way or lay person's way to describe this is that the pre-cap just signals that you wanna do something and it gives you the old, to use another old-fashioned expression, is it bigger than a bread box? Right, and I said that to one of my children, my oldest actually, who's now 27, and he's like, that people don't know what bread boxes are, they don't have them apparently anymore, but.
Michael, I can tell you that's one of my favorite expressions.
As a bigger than a bread box, that's right.
Yeah.
And then you go into master plan, which then starts to create a longer term vision for the institution that answers some high level questions. So in our case, one of the first questions was, okay, you're proposing to redevelop, is it one site or two sites? Okay, so the board of directors is committed to continue with the 2-site model. So don't worry, because everyone, once you say you have 2 sites, you're going to one, that means that at least one section of our catchment area or one community in the areas where we have 2 sites would obviously be very concerned. And obviously if for places like Westport, where your closest access point would be Perth, obviously have a vested interest. So we will continue to pursue a 2-site model, but it contemplates things like there are certain services that we don't provide, so we're not an acute stroke unit. Marty and I were just talking about that before briefly when we came in. So this would be the stage where we contemplate, okay, should we say that when we do this expansion, we're going to be adding a program which includes stroke? Okay, I'm not saying that's what we're gonna do or we should do, but these are the types of questions that get asked. And then you then have a scaffolding, you could start mold this next phase, which comes into the next phase, which is functional programming, which is what are you actually gonna build? Okay, so many stages and site selection. The pre-capital submission, first stage, basically said we can't really do anything significant with either campus for a variety of reasons. So we will be proposing a greenfield redevelopment, which means a new per site. So the master plan will also force us to answer the question. So if you're building a new per site, what happens to the old Great War Memorial? We will come up with options in the master planning process.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the high level. So we're gonna be working on a plan right now, and we'll probably start that sometime in our first quarter, which is in the spring. Okay, next slide.
Same.
Core capital campaign. So I'm very proud and grateful for Westport and the other municipalities that form the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville and their support of our core capital campaign, which we use to support our electronic medical record project, which went live last December. And I've been at different hospitals. I've been part of a project like this. And even though they're always exceptionally chaotic and very, very taxing on the staff and physician, I can say it was probably one of the better projects that I've been a part of, even though there were lots of bumps and bruises. So from a patient, like your constituents may have noticed that in December, January of 2024 and 25, things took a lot longer. You might have to queue up for registration or wait for services longer than normal. And that is now, I would say, settled down to what I would call the new normal, which is the staff now know how to use the system, and we've more or less returned to normal, what we can consider normal operations, even though we are asking more of the staff and physicians, right? The example I love to give is that in the old days, so I'm sure most of you have been to Perth Emerge with family or friends. If you have, you almost certainly know who Dr. Drummond is. If you're on social media, then you don't have to go to the Perth Hospital, you know who he is. Dr. Drummond, you can see the antibiotics for your knee, you got a swollen knee. He could just turn to the nurse and say, can you go get 400 milligrams of amoxicillin? Or I guess it'd be more something like Cipro or something like that. And they would just go get it and go, here you go. Right now, the doctor has to go, okay, find the patient, pick the thing, and it goes beep. Now, that sounds less efficient. It's way more safe. So you're picking from a standardized list of medication in a process that has checks and balances, right? For instance, if that was a narcotic and you ordered the wrong narcotic, let's say hydromorphone instead of morphine, hydromorphone is 10 times more potent than morphine, it would say, you just ordered hydromorphone, not morphine. Are you sure you want this? Because if you give this amount, it might actually kill the patient. Okay, so there are trade-offs. So the staff, if you talk to Dr. Drummond or most of the physicians, they'll say they actually have to put a lot more into the work that they do, but we're actually getting a lot more safety and standardized care compared to what we had before. Another great advantage is that if you come to Perth or Smith Falls and then you need to be referred to a tertiary institution, you'll likely go to Kingston. In the old days, we'd have to copy your records and talk to health records and fax things over or copy things and come with a file. Now people in Kingston will just be able to go and it's right there instantly, right at hand. So very beneficial. Okay, so next slide. And speaking of Dr. Drummond, if you've never met him, you can see a great shot of the back of the set, he's right there. And it's, as I like to say, he hasn't picked up any of this, so every time I do a public presentation, I say this in the hopes that he will hear the recording, which is that photo is proof that you can teach an old dog. Next slide. So I didn't want to take up too much time. It's really an opportunity to meet you and to be able to interact with you and just tell me for us on behalf of the staff, the physicians and the volunteers at our institutions, how much we appreciate the support of the community. And we're always delighted to be able to serve not just your constituents, but the constituents in the broader community that the hospital is a part of. And with that,
Thank you,
Mayor Jones, I'd be happy to take any questions that council may have.
Councillor Crawford.
Thrilled, I did not know you were on the same EMR as Kingston. That's a huge step in the right direction for us. Our location's odd in that a lot of people work and direct themselves towards Kingston, many to Brockville. So we've got 4 hospitals, if you include Smith Falls, people might go to. And I've always thought it would be helpful if there was a bit of a roadmap for when people should be making strategic choices on where they go. I know people, my family included, who've gone to one hospital to be told that that's not the best place to be. And they end up having to drive to another hospital. And including the fact that not all services are available 7 days a week at each hospital. So somebody might go for an x-ray to one and be told they got to go to another one if they want an x-ray that day. Is there a way we could communicate with even if it's that the stroke hub is in Brockville, most people don't really know that. Or that, you know, what are the regional expertises and when should you be going to a different hospital than Perth? So that people could make informed choices.
So the short answer is that's people should have that as a menu. The only thing is I would point out is that a lot of times is that there isn't always patient choice in some of these things. Some of them there are, but a lot of times, for example, with diagnostic scans, these are things that are ordered tests that have to be ordered by a physician. So I think if you have a preference, the time to make that preference known is when you're talking to your doctor about, let's say you need a CT scan. Like one of the things that we've actually done to your point, Councillor, is that we've actually had our staff go out to all the local family medicine groups, including the ones that are close to Westport, to let them know, like, these are our wait times. So right now, if you need a CT, like your doctor wants to order an outpatient CT, you can probably get it faster at our hospital. The CT machine has to be in Smith Falls, so it'd be an extra 15 minutes or so, or drive, we go 10, 11 minutes, but it's a little bit more of a drive, but it still might be closer than having to go to Kingston or Brockville, right? So I would say just because the physician is responsible for the order, you can request to go to a hospital of your choice.
Well, usually our providers give you that choice, but it's nice to know why you might go to one versus another. Sometimes it's an ER visit for a fracture.
So
presumed.
That's right. So the non-elective ones, the ones that are more emergent, then it's a little bit more of a choice. And it's very difficult to advise about emerge because the volumes and the flow change on a day-to-day basis. There are days, for example, in Perth or many hospitals actually, where you can walk in and you can be in and out of there in an hour and a half. And there's other days, like in Perth, there's other days where that would be perfectly normal, and then other days where you could be sitting there for 9 hours for the same question, and it all depends on who else is there. So we're trying to do a better job. We do have a communications plan. It's mostly linked to making sure that we're in good shape to inform the community about our services to prep for the redevelopment. So I'll take that under advisement as we get that.
Thanks.
Good, thank you. Councillor Crawford.
Yeah, haven't been involved with it for a while. I found that a lot of the public aren't aware of, as you said, things you don't have a choice in. I'm referring specifically to the paramedic service where if they have a call to a home and it's obviously a stroke and the person wants to go to Smith Falls and they say, sorry, we have to take you to Kingston. And I've been in more than one situation where the family's quite upset and, this is what we want. And I know that, it's not very well explained to the public what the paramedics face in the way of, when they have a choice or when they make a decision and when it's actually carved in stone, this is the protocol, this is what we have to do.
Yeah, so sometimes, and I totally, and I'll take your comments and I'll put them on Councilor Crapper's comments as well and say, we'll take that under advisement, but I think it's important for the public to know that with EMS or the ambulance service, oftentimes they're bound to go to the closest emergency department, even if if they suspect it's a stroke, for example, and they know that Rockville is the stroke center. A lot of the early interventions for things like that will happen in an emergency department, and they are bound, I think it's actually by law, to go to the closest emergency department. And then from there, if you need to be admitted, for example, sometimes there's a drug you can be administered if you're in the early stages of stroke that will settle it and you're good and emerge. But if that's not successful, then you'll need to be admitted. And in that case, you would be transferred to Rockville. So I can understand where it's confusing to the public because it's like, well, if Rockville's the stroke place, why didn't they just take me to the Rockville Emergency Department? And it might be that you live, 10 minutes north of, you're in Westport, but you're 10 minutes north of here and versus the closest emergency. So I know that's not well understood. And I think if EMS would be here, they'd say we'd love to, but when we talk to patients and we're trying to recover them and stabilize them, that's our focus on and trying to explain. But I think to your point, we do have a process that we're developing and to get ready for all the communication stuff for our expansion. So I'll keep that in mind. Thank you for your comment.
Councillor Aragona.
So in your plans for expansion, are you expanding because there's specific services that you're not offering that you want to be offering, or is it because of the volume of people that are now using the hospital?
So I'd say it's both. So I said, on your last point about the services that we don't have that we may want to, that's more of a question that we'll pose and we'll see what comes of it. Obviously, we don't want to duplicate. The objective is not to say you need to have exactly the same services at every site, because that's not, the ministry would say this, but I would also agree. I don't think you need to mirror every single service, particularly if it's a specialty service at every hospital. But the biggest, so we'll look at it, but the primary objective is just to make sure that we're dealing with the impacts of growth and aging in our population. Like I said earlier, it was a blip, but I don't think we've been below, I don't even think we've been at 100% occupancy in, it might be more than a year. And if it's not more than a year, it could have been more than a day or two at a time. And the big edge of the wave of aging, so not just growth in the population, but the age is a driver of health utilization. And that big wave starts to crash on the shores in 2030. And so that's why it's so important, because this process, I didn't mention it when I was going through all those stages, but to get to where we are today to a new hospital that's capable of absorbing that growth, best case scenario, it's probably 8 to 10 years, right? All the stages you have to go, and also to make sure that the community has the time to raise the funds needed for the community share. The government only pays for 90% of the bricks and mortar, and we have to pay 100% of all the rest. Equipment and the furnishings and stuff like that. So it's gonna be a big campaign, and we'll need 8 to 10 years just to be able to get the money. So short answer, both, but the primary focus is to deal with growth and aging in the population.
Councillor Cardy.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. Just wondering about the specific questions or questionnaire, like, is there going to be a specific target group or like so many areas that will be asked in questions?
So in this region, that will probably be one of the biggest challenges, is to make sure that there's representation from, like, it's fairly broad, right? Like from Westport all the way up to Lanark, right? Is like North Lanark and even parts of Beckwith, from a geographical perspective. So suffice to say, what we'll probably do is we'll have groups thematically, and we do intend to ensure that at least there's representation from our municipal partners. It might not be possible to do a full engagement of the councils of each of the municipalities that form, we call it LLG, so Legion, Grenville and Lanark. But we'll do an invite and we'll make sure that there's an opportunity for not just the community. We also need to make sure that our staff and our physicians are involved as well as our community partners, health community partners as well. So we'll do our best and there'll be some communications about that and there'll be invites that will be going up, but we figure we can probably cover it with somewhere around 10 different focus groups if you keep it to a reasonable number of like 10 or 15 people, so. Stay tuned.
So I just had two questions, or I had one comment, and that is, indirectly impacts the hospital. That I know you're aware of this, but it gives us a chance to praise EMS for a moment. That in July of 24, we ended up with the first response unit here in the village. And it's taken a while for people to understand. So for people who may not know what that is, it means that when there is a call for an ambulance, the ambulance is here 9 to 9 or 8 to 8, it's a 12-hour shift, responds, does the triage, and if it's transporting the person is required, a second ambulance comes in to do that, and this unit goes back to take the next call. And so we had a big party when we opened it up and celebrated, and funny response from the public initially that some of the gals were saying, oh, every time the siren goes off, you know, I'm scared and I'm concerned. And then they got to understand that this was just such a higher level. So last week we received our last, might have been annual, at least last quarter response, ambulance response. And so Herb Scott, Mayor of Athens, hit the desk in the council chamber ahead of me. And it went there first. And I thought, well, that worked. And so I hit the desk in the council chamber and they put one here. And our response time then they're different than policing, whatever the most serious call is, was running around 18 and a half minutes. We're around 8. It's in response to people because there's somebody here. So they get that initial response right away. So that is sort of the good news story that, you know, the people may be better cared for and may not end up in the hospital. But you did mention, I'm not gonna put you on the spot, I'm gonna lay my question out and I'm gonna call you later.
Okay.
And it's about the health unit, because you just said it.
I'll probably answer.
Michael, you just said it, I think I thought I heard you say health unit, and of course, there continues to be debate with the medical officer of health and with the Board of Health on suggested closures from the medical officer of health and the adamant no, not at this point in time from the Board of Health. And in December, at the public Board of Health meeting that was held in Kingston, there were several delegations from mayors and your counterpart in the Kemptville Hospital came down and spoke. And of course, he said he's very, like you, very eloquent, but made many comments about the impact on ER when public health closes. So I'm not putting you on the spot today, and we are still not closing Perth and Almont, which are the ones that kind of impact you, and Kemptville, which impact you. Yeah. We're still working on it, but I might circle back some point because I sit on the board and we spent most of the morning having this discussion again. And you know, what in the, not, I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but we're not just looking at numbers and data. We're looking at the real life impact of people in ERs. Because the board is still very, very convinced that there may need to be, public health has been underfunded for years. That's just a given for my statement, but there must be other ways to do it rather than closing Perth and Almont and places that are near and dear. So I won't put you on the spot, but I am gonna call you.
You know what, I'm very happy to have you circle back, and the only other comment, I'm, you know, very happy to hear about the ambulance station here in Westport, and I can imagine, I totally appreciate the residents who say, well, we never used to have the signs, but I would just, maybe tongue in cheek, I would just say, it's a lot like lawyers. Everybody likes to complain about lawyers till you need one.
Tis true. Yeah, tis true. Yeah. Well, that was kind of my follow-up. Anybody, anything else? Thank you so much for coming. I do appreciate it.
Thank you, Council. I appreciate your time, and we want to make this a regular habit. And so, I might actually elect to move the timing to maybe June or May for.
Nice.
To support a better, driving environment,
Yeah,
but to staff as well for allowing us to come and speak to us, and I hope you have, enjoy the rest of your meeting.
we'd be interested in hearing, when the fundraising, hear the whole thing before you get excited. But we would be interested in hearing, what the fundraising initiatives are that we can
I'm
help.
very
with.
happy to talk about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're working on that now. We're not ready
Okay.
to come and talk about that.
I know
publicly,
that,
But
but,
we will, yeah.
but because, and we sit with the other hospitals as Councillor Crapper has already talked about, but at the Leeds and Grenville Council, Mayor Hugenboom and I continually talk about Perth Smith Falls. So if there are, beyond just tax, if there are things that we can help people get involved in fundraising, come in and have a discussion with us or with staff and see if we can encourage some of the community groups to pitch in and help out.
Well, that's great. We take any and all support in that regard, so I'll take a page out of your comments. I will circle back
Okay,
and
great.
talk to you about that.
I like it. All right.
Thanks very much. Again, thank you very much for your time.
And we always say to people when they leave at this hour of the night, watch the deer on the way home.
All right, thank you. I will do.
All
Thanks.
right, thanks so much. Okay, that was good. And you had a trip down memory lane there.
Lane.
Very good.
As you wanted to ask about a web-based identifier of what the wait lists of the various ER departments are, is where, I know it's a hassle, it's a technically difficult thing to do, but because we're such a weird spot and have to decide where you're gonna go, it'd be awfully nice to know it's only 20 minutes there, 3 hours there
Yeah.
before you head out. I know he wouldn't have an answer though.
Yeah. He didn't have an answer for me either, but I wanted to pose a question. Okay, team, that's great. So let's move on to 6.1, the administration report from administration, pardon me, the community grants program. You've read the report. The motion is moved by Councillor Crapper, seconded by Councillor Card, that the committee of the whole received the report entitled Administration Community Grants Program 2026 Intake Number 1. And that the committee of the whole recommends that council direct staff to include the recommended for approval grant applications in the 2026 budget deliberations. Any discussion? Councillor Card and Councillor Cardy.
Through your worship. Having read through it and every point that was made there, I took it well. I think it's good to move the date. And I also think that it was a very strong effort to accommodate everybody, so the rules that were applied to the applicants, I think, are more than fair. Some could have been excluded but they weren't, because I know as well as the people that made the decision that they're very deserving. So I have no complaints at all. I think it was well thought out.
Thank you. Councillor Cardy.
Thank you. Just speaking with both hats on as council member and as a candidate committee member. I just think it's really important and very much appreciated to have that money. Because as some of you may know or not know, the council and the mayor pay for that money out of pocket. And it might be a different council and mayor in the near future or down the line. And so if they know that this application has to be done on their behalf, then they'll know that they can maybe secure that money without depending on a different staff that might not, or council that might not want to participate.
Oh, that's a really good point.
So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Cracker.
I'll comment on the fiscal part, which I read between the lines, there was some anxiety about, we're given a $30,000 cap. But I'm comfortable with the fact that so far our history is, as it implies, states, most of the money, a couple of the grants are for a full year in the first place, and they are our biggest asks. And so we tend to have money in the budget that remains relatively, if we get a surprise, we get a surprise, but it seems pretty safe to me. If it didn't seem safe, I'd be anxious, because you don't want to cut people out where there are opportunities that aren't winter, because the big ones are for winter use arena things. But at this point, I think we keep our eye on it, but it seems like a safe bet that we won't go over we won't have asks that take us beyond 30,000.
Yeah, thank you. And I guess I'd like to point out that when the CAO first pitched this to me, I just thought, well, what's the value? What's the sense? And she said, no, it's a way of us documenting our support to community groups. I think she was right, like, we're now into second year, third year, whatever. But we can really stand tall in the support that we give to community groups. When, as you just use the example when we were talking about the hospital, but we're a small community, we're a small tax base. So I think well done for our team approving this, and well done to the CAO for recommending it, that we have a better sense of specific contributions to community groups. So if there's nothing else, I'll just call it. All in favor? Carried. Alrighty, and so the next item is 6.2. And I understand, so I'm gonna read the motion, but I understand there's a request to defer. So let me read the motion first of all. It's moved by Councillor seconded by Councillor Crapper, that the committee of the whole receive the report entitled Administration Special Events Policy, and that the committee of the whole recommend that council approve the policy as presented amended at the February 10th, 2026 committee of the whole meeting. And I know Councillor Card wants to speak to this, so I'll just come to you, sir.
Through your worship, I'd like to move that we defer this to April's COW meeting to give our staff a chance to, at our direction, to involve the community groups and anybody that this might impact a little more. It's a pretty in-depth undertaking. I think it could probably be a little bit more streamlined, realizing that there are basic rules that we have to follow, but I think that we could maybe streamline it and do a better job if we had some input from the public. So I'd like to move that.
Okay, and do I understand you're gonna second it?
I'll second.
Okay, seconded by Joe Aragona. Madam, did you have some thoughts on this? I think you were aware that this was gonna come to the table. Can you give us some idea of, is the date work for you, and how would you look at, see the consultation with the community groups taking place?
Yeah, sure. Thank you through you, Madam Mayor. Of course, our main objective was to get this in front of council ahead of the busy season, which is generally speaking May. I do agree that it might be advantageous for staff to undertake consultations with these community groups that will use the policy. So April should be a fine timeline. I'll update council if it's not. But I would probably aim to start either or and a website and social media campaign whereby maybe it's a survey or some sort of fillable form that groups can fill out and get back to me, but also urge them to just reach out to my email or give me a call with any feedback as well.
Okay,
But that would have to be prior to the end of March, but I can put that communication.
right, but like there's the 6 weeks
Yeah.
between now and the end of March.
Yep.
And then you bring it back to April committee of the whole, with some changes made that are being influenced by the user groups.
Definitely.
That's fair.
Through your worship, one suggestion is it possible that we could be proactive and contact the groups and say, this is what we're doing and we'd like
Sure.
your input.
Yeah.
Instead of waiting for it to happen, make it happen.
I think we just do that on our own. If the CEO can tell us when it's on the homepage of the website, then go out to all the groups and let them know. Yeah, for sure. And that'll take you a couple of days, but let us know and we will make that happen. Councillor Crapper.
And as we're doing that, I think it's important, I had a couple of people call about this, and the purpose is to improve the ability of our community groups, volunteer groups, to organize, run important events safely. And I think sometimes people don't like rules because it seems like it's, they're imposed in order to constrain, but when you read the bullet points around purpose, it's pretty clear that, and so if that can be wherever we're communicating, I think reinforcing right up front that we're doing this because we do value the events that our community runs, and we need to make sure that they're the best they can be, and that includes safety, but it's not exclusively safety. And we need to work, I think sometimes historically, today what we're saying is we always need to work in partnership. And to have events that don't involve us on a certain level in the era we're in are problematic. So we need to be involved. Doesn't mean we need to control it. It means we need to be involved in the ways that make sense for that event and for our community.
Yeah. And recognizing that those of us who have run events for many years, have to step in line. So I like the way that you worded that. You know, I've been part of an organization for many years and we've run many festivals. But that organization too has to get in line in 2026 because those are the rules that we have to follow. So I really appreciate the input from particularly Councillor Card and Councillor Aragona to no suggestion, throw the baby out with the bathwater. But let's get some input on how we can make it a little bit easier to use. There may be, the CEO, you know, thought about it briefly and said, you know, maybe we break it into two, like the big event that's village wide. You know, if I can go back to that movie, it's the full Monty. Then these are the things that you have to do. But other events that are specific to a location, there may be other things that can be done. So I think that's a way path that Kim is not talking about you in third party, I'm sorry, but is thinking. So she's heard you and knows that there needs to be some changes made. Councillor Aragona.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, I mean, that to me, it's all about finding that balance that you talked about, the, you know, the big events and the small events. There needs to be a balance between enabling the organizations to actually put on the event, but at the same time, making sure that the village itself is covered in terms of public safety and risk. So I think it's involving the community in the conversation makes it easier for us to get to that point where we find that balance, and the document will be a little bit more I think it'll be stronger and it'll be a little bit more workable for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like the discussion. Are you okay with it? I'm great. We postpone it and we put it on the web, and all the people you know that put events on, you'll let them know that it's up. So I've got, the mover is Councillor Card, the seconder is Councillor Aragona to defer the report defer the, what are we calling a policy, special events policy to the April committee of the whole meeting. I'll just call that question then. All in favor? Carried. Okay, good work. 6.3, subsidies for utility building. It's moved by Councillor Crapper, seconded by Councillor Card, that the committee of the whole received the report entitled Administration Subsidies for Utility Billing Update for Information Purposes. Any comments? Councillor Aragona.
So I always go back to the communications part of anything like this. So this is all great information. So my question through you, Madam Mayor, to CEO or to Peter is how is this information going to be communicated to the ratepayers in the village?
Okay, good question. None?
Yeah, thank you through you, Madam Mayor. The only place that it is posted right now, because the majority of these grants and subsidies are through the county, is through the county website. We can certainly put it on our website as a link to these grants and subsidies if council so wishes. I know some people have trouble with our website as it is. We can also share this information on social media as well.
Yeah, that good?
I think putting it on the website would be great, but maybe consider also the actual bill itself. There's real estate on the back of that bill for information. If you want more information about subsidies, check out this page on the Village of Westport website, and then that link is there. So it's it might work as well. You don't have to do a lot with it, but just provide the pointer to it.
Yeah, let's try that, because historically, I never opened my bill. It's an automatic debit, right? And so I just note it in my bank account. And every month it's pretty well close to the same, so it's not causing me to open it up, but I'm happy to give that a whirl, and there's no expense. Like you say, it's free real estate on the back of the bill. See how it goes. Everybody's fine with that? And Madame, you're good with that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Very good. And we'll put it on the website as well, for sure. All right, then I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. Very good. We're moving to 6.4, Public Works Annual Storm Water and Wastewater Reports. So it's moved by Councillor Card, seconded by Councillor Crapper, that the Committee of the Whole received the report entitled Public Works 2025 Annual Storm Water and Wastewater Reports for information purposes. Now, I know that that Erla has raised a couple of questions about this. Since we're just receiving the report, I take it there's no reason that we can't just continue with our discussion tonight, Madam. And then the questions that have been raised will come back to us in a briefing note from staff.
Yes.
Doesn't impact us accepting this.
It's just for information tonight.
Yeah, okay, I got it. So then questions and comments, Councillor Crawford, Councillor Aragon.
Page 3, maintenance, there's a couple questions that relate. When it comes to maintenance of catch basins, I wonder about the new catch basements in watercolors. Are they included in this? If not, when do we take responsibility for those? And what will through you to Mr. Evans, what are the implications for us in terms of cost and human resources they're the biggest of the catch basins, and are we responsible now? What will it look like differently when we are?
Yeah, good question. Mr. Evans, over to you.
Yeah, so right now we are not responsible for anything in the new subdivision. None of the phases have been transferred over to municipal responsibility yet. Maintenance is certainly going to be a added cost to both resources and staff time when we do take that over. However, like with all of the streets in the village, it's expected that the additional tax revenue that's brought in will more than cover the costs of infrastructure as they go forward. That's the way rates are set up and meant for. Now, the cost for cleaning catch basins is pretty low, especially since council has provided Public Works with some good equipment over the last couple of years, including our valve trailer, which has a small hydrovac unit on it. And the intent is that we will do more and more of our maintenance in-house instead of contracting it out. Now, even if we contract it out, there's a very small number of catch basins in the phase that we would be assuming in the near future. And even as a phased-in approach in general with the subdivisions, we're seeing small incremental additions each year, nothing overly concerning compared to the existing system we have.
And just part of the question was, any idea when we'll be taking them over?
I think it's too early to say. We know we've got one in the short term. We're working on kind of finalizing those details, but I don't have a date for council as of yet.
Okay, thanks, Peter. Go ahead.
Follow up on that. When we do take them over, can we be sure to not just have that there's then 43 of them, but identify in your report that we have taken these on so that we can get a sense of whether we can ask the questions about what impact it's had in real time? Differentiate the catch basins and the stormwater outlets so that we know which ones we're involved in and whether or not there's additional cost to us in those.
Yes.
You said separate the new ones out so that we know.
Yeah, just like let us know when it's happening.
Yeah, fair enough.
Rather than just
I didn't understand.
bury it into the report.
Yeah. Peter?
Yep, through your worship, that would be included in the annual report under the summary of alterations to the stormwater management system.
Okay, good.
Great.
You're good. Did I see another hand over here?
Yeah.
Yeah, Councillor going on.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Peter. And part of the report talks about cleaning the catch basins. Does that include, I noticed that in some areas, we've had a lot of snow. I noticed in some areas that the catch basins are actually under snowbanks. As we get into the milder weather, does that process include digging those out?
Through your worship, not officially as part of this report. The report that they're talking about is the maintenance of the actual workings of the catch basins, making sure the sumps are cleared so they can properly catch sediment and slow flow rates to design. Removing snowbanks from around catch basins as the warm weather is a normal and regular task of Public Works. We include that in our winter control section, but operators are always cleaning out catch basins ahead of melt events throughout the year, whether it's snow or leaves and debris and things like that.
Okay. All the questions you never thought you were going to ask about catch basins. Do you have another catch basin question?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
And actually this through you, Madam.
Yes, thank you.
Pertains to both this and the drinking water report. I've talked before, Peter, about wanting to have a section of the reports that has to do with a risk analysis. So it's one thing to report on what have we done this quarter. I'm interested in what are you worried about next quarter? And so with climate change, with spring on the way, with snow over drains, I don't care what it is, but if there are things that you are predicting could be problematic for our community or costly to us, we should know about it to the degree possible through these reports in advance. And that would make these reports more useful to me as a counselor. And you're the expert in it, so I would appreciate having that information as part of these reports. And then I did some research into it. It doesn't seem an unusual piece of these reports that they're, I don't know what you call it. Risk analysis seems to be the way it gets framed.
Okay, so that's a request from council, Peter.
Understood.
Good, thank you. Okay,
I have one.
there's a mother in me coming out. Go ahead.
Through you, Madam Mayor, Councillor Crafter's question spurred another question in my mind. In the early 25, we had some flooding and there was conversations around some catch basins or culverts on private property. Is there any proactive activity that we're planning around the upcoming thaw to sort of reinform those homeowners that they should be, because we inform them that they should be preparing to clean them out, or are we doing anything about that?
That's a great question, and particularly when you look at the snowbanks. The snowbank at the end of my driveway, I have no line of sight up to Wayland anymore, it's so much. So, Peter, I talked a little bit to give you a moment to think.
So through your worship, we have spoken with a lot of the folks that are along some of the areas where there is a private creek or private drainage throughout there. I believe we've hit pretty much everybody along the location where the culvert overtopped last year. I think some social media outreach is going to be good as the weather starts to warm, to kind of remind people those conversations. And even here, the council would reiterate, please feel free to reach out to Public Works. And if you're looking for guidance and responsibilities, it's a question we get regularly throughout the year, and happy to continue to make those conversations happen. It can be a challenging conversation where responsibilities are viewed in public much differently than they are in practice and in actual responsibility. So I think people lean on the municipality, and I hope they can lean on us for information. We can't always take on additional responsibility, but we're more than happy to provide information at the least.
Yeah, I think that's a terrific idea. I don't expect you to do the social media, but the CEO can she's got some terrific staff that enjoy that, but they'll pull on you for what the subject of the message should be, and then they can do it. I think that's a great question, Councillor. Because it's gonna be if it's a fast thaw, it's gonna be a dramatic thaw.
Yeah.
And we're all hoping for a fast thaw. Okay, anything else, team? Okay,
One last question.
one last, and then I'll come to Councillor Carney.
I'm gonna get away from stormwater and catch basins and just go to drinking water for a second, if I may.
Yeah,
through
please.
You, Madam Mayor. Peter, the water meter replacement project has been going on for a couple of years now. Can you give us a sense of when that is expected to be complete? I know it's a slow process, but just so we can get a handle on when we can expect that to be over.
Absolutely. So, through your worship. So I admit I do crunch those numbers at a budget normally. I didn't do that as part of the annual report. We are well over halfway for our numbers for meter replacements. I know we've got a few years left to continue that process and get them out, but we've got a few years left, but we are well on our way.
Okay, good, Councillor Carney.
Okay, so through you, Madam Mayor, there's been lots of discussion about our elevated sodium levels. In the past, we've had elevated sodium levels. It's higher right now. And I'm just wondering if we could possibly do some investigating to see if there is any sort of, I don't know, process to reduce sodium. I know in the past, I don't think there is, or if we can possibly investigate, compensating the villagers. I'm not sure. I wish we could look more deeply into that because of the elevated sodium levels right now for our constituents.
So, Mr. Evans, I mean, I think I've seen lots of correspondence that I've been CC'd on, that the people who are who the health unit want to be notified, is a very small group of people. And one of the questions I asked is this elevated any more than in any other years? And I was told that's not the case. So I'm not quite sure, unless you've got some thoughts, Mr. Evans, not quite sure what we can do.
Yeah,
And
so
I know that you've even kind of philosophized on why the sodium is high in the area, but please go ahead.
yeah. So through your, there really isn't any cost-effective treatment method. This is a natural material. This is a non-toxic material that is common in groundwater, all groundwater. It's not as high level everywhere, but it's very, very common when your water source is groundwater. It's a very soluble material, so as the water moves through the ground, it picks this up. The notification of these comes up every 5 years because we file with an indicator every 5 years with ministry with the health unit. So we get this cycle where it comes back up every 5 years. It's just a reminder to council that the reasoning behind that, not to step on the health unit's toes, but they want to make sure that folks are notified. So if you're in that small segment where you're tightly controlling your sodium intake, it can be accounted for. So if some of the numbers kind of thrown around, if you want to be around 2,300 milligrams per liter and you drink 2 liters of water per day, you know that you're going to have 160 of that 2,300 as part of the drinking water. The sodium source is far greater in food and in other areas, but we want to make sure that folks that are on a sodium-reduced diet are there, are notified, so they can account for it. Even a reduced sodium diet, you're 10% if you're there, if you're drinking those 2 liters of water. It's still a small amount, and it's not an easy solution. We talk about it a lot on the water side, where we run into bottled water that has a significantly higher level of sodium than the 20 milligram per liter limit. For those that are not on a sodium-reduced diet, again, sodium is a non-toxic product. There is an aesthetic objective of 200 milligrams per liter, and there's no maximum allowable concentration. So while we are at between 75 and 85 milligrams per liter, we are very much under any aesthetic objectives. And really, for those that aren't on that sodium-reduced diet, it's not a significant source, but anymore, I think I'd be worried about stepping on health unit toes. And my concern with treatment, there are some point of use devices that can be installed at the home, but they have their own drawbacks. They use a lot of water, so you're adding cost back to the users for consumption. Additionally, that would preclude the use of some softeners that are going to add sodium in as well. And stripping those minerals out of the drinking water, some of the tools that people can use actually will make the water want to pull those ions back out of plumbing fixtures and corrosion and things like that are really not helpful in other ways, and may actually add significant costs onto the users. So I think my position and Public Works position is similar to council, that for those that are on a sodium-reduced diet, account for it, know about it. And most of those folks know where their significant sources are. And for those that aren't on it, it's non-toxic. We're well under the aesthetic objective. And if you want to make decisions around kind of sodium intake, just know that some of those solutions and quote unquote solutions, as with anything, have their own drawbacks and impacts, and particularly on cost and maintenance. So.
Thanks, Peter. Councillor Cracker.
Sorry, it's communication, that we need to talk about here. We know that, the risk is low and all that stuff, and it's been on Facebook, but it's in a very, formal way. It's like if we had a Peter Lynn or one of these, the health unit do have communications people who must have, formulated ways of informing the community, so that the worry that we're getting emails about constantly, even though that stuff was on there, Peter, and you're able to articulate it, but we need to articulate it in a way the average person understands and goes, okay, good. Could we look into whether the health unit could do that for us? Portland has the same issue. The health center in Portland had the same issue. Like, this isn't absolutely, this is common stuff, but the residents don't know that, or don't know. We need to be able to just clearly, succinctly share what we want to share about this, or what, even better, what the health unit says we should share about this.
So of course, we all agree. We all agree. We've sat here now for 3.5 years. And we often, you particularly, and Councillor Aragonas particularly, bring us back to communication and the how. And the how. So I hadn't thought of health unit. I think that's a heck of an idea for this, so
Yeah.
staff will follow up and see if there's any way that that can happen. This was like the second event that happened this year in relation to water, so it probably made it a more of a concern.
Yeah.
So Peter, thank you for putting it in context for us. You know, telling us about how many liters of water and what difference that would make in what a person who's not in this specific group would be expected to intake a year. There was a gentleman who came forward in the community who after a good discussion with me, has volunteered to coordinate door knocking. And so CA was following up with him to see what does that look like, what does that look like if he moves away? So, you know, so always we manage the risk, right? We understand the need to communicate, but when the proposal came forward, manage the risk, hoping that that proposal comes back to us in May. That whether it's for losing the water tower or this or things that I think that we have to realize the small community of Westport, or it's just the Westport way, doesn't work anymore. And people who, not just in Mr. Rolston's subdivision, but people who moved into the village proper may not be connected to the informal communication channels that most of us enjoy. So when this person called and, you know, quite frankly, he was quite irate. And as we worked through it, and I said, we don't have enough people to do that. And he said, well, let me think about it. Let me talk to people and see if it's something I can coordinate. So not to put off the discussion, I think that the public health unit being contacted is really beneficial. But let's also see what the CEO brings back if this is a workable solution as part of our emergency system. I think our CEMC was going to be part of the conversation to see if that would also come in. So it could be something very cool if it works. Were you trying to get into that before I go to council? No. Okay, then Councillor Cardy and Councillor Carden.
Through you, Madam Mayor. I just want to say thank you to Peter for clarifying that. If people are watching this, it makes a lot more sense now for everyone, the way you explained it. So I appreciate it. And so the people that had the concerns and were emailing us, I hope that they are able to watch this as well.
Yeah, thanks very much. Councillor Carden?
Through your worship, I know that we're highlighting our water right now, but if sodium's an issue and the health unit's involved, I mean, it should be the complete program. I'm someone that watches the salt content of everything. So like in a can of soup, you could have 500 milligrams of salt, which is crazy. A McDonald's burger could be 500 milligrams. Your daily allowance normally would be around 2,300 milligrams. And they suggest for somebody like myself, you keep it around 1,200, 1,300 if you can. But that's pretty hard to do when you look at your choices. So I'm not a big water drinker, but I should be based on the numbers that I see. That's probably one of the least dangerous things that we could be putting in our body compared to everything else. So if there is a program and somebody's going to knock on doors and they're going to give information, let's not just highlight the water. Let's highlight the complete problem in that. Sure, look at what the water's doing, but maybe you should be looking at the other stuff you eat too. I mean, you can't get away from salt. There's no way. You just can't. You can't do it. I mean, you could look at ketchup, mustard. It doesn't matter. If you put it pickles, they put it in everything. It's crazy. So you have to be very diligent to keep that intake into a reasonable range.
Yeah, but I think that I agree 100%. I think that these two councillors, continually remind us that we all know this stuff, but how do we tell people?
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll look at this option and see if that's going to help us be part of our emergency management. See if public health can. I think that this individual was I think he was away and kind of heard about it after the fact on both occasions, and Anyway, it was a great conversation and I hope that it comes to fruition. Anything else in regards to this report? Thank you for joining us virtually tonight, Mr. Evans. So I'll call the question then. All in favor? Carried. Well, good discussion, everybody, for sure. We're at 6.5, 2025 Q4 briefing. It's moved by Councillor Crapper, seconded by Councillor Card, that the Committee of the Whole received the report entitled Public Works 2025 Q4 Briefing for information. Any questions for Mr. Evans? Councillor Aragona and then Councillor Crapper.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Peter, you and I had a conversation a little while ago about EV charging stations, and you explained it very well to me, but I'm obviously not as good at explaining this as you are. I was wondering if you could just very concisely explain again how the electricity being charged, used at the EV charging stations is being paid for by the village, and how the users factor into that.
Absolutely. So your worship, the the charging is provided by the municipality. The power is provided by the municipality. It was something that it's a very, very low cost. When those EV chargers, when they were initially commissioned by the village, the purpose was to get us on the map so that when folks that are traveling in their EV chargers, they're looking to line up places that have both charging opportunities and shopping and tourist type items. So the concern from council was that folks would step away from Westport, choose different locations if we weren't able to provide this service. So right now, the village provides this service, and it's funded in the same way that the asphalt in that parking lot is provided for, the line painting, the snow clearing, the maintenance. So the village is always going to provide services which cost taxpayers and ratepayers money. And this is just one of those features that the village funds and pays for. It's one of those pieces of infrastructure that the village funds and pays for so that visitors and tourists and residents can all use our infrastructure and our local businesses. Hopefully it's been a bit of a time, so hopefully those were what you were looking for, Councillor Aragona. If you want to jog my memory, I'm happy to elaborate.
Yeah, the question I keep getting is, and I got twice this week, was if the village is subsidizing the increased usage of EV stations, because the numbers are going up. So that's the question that I received.
What numbers are going up? The number of cars hooking up?
Usage on the EV stations is going up according to the report that Peter gave us.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so through your worship, I think that ties in well with our kind of our fees and rates bylaws, and additional to the rate study that's been discussed at meetings in the past, making sure that services that are provided by the municipality, should council wish, are either something that's provided by taxpayers, something that's cost recoverable, something that's partially cost recoverable, and those services will certainly come in. Not to say that council is going to recommend anything for major for the streets, but that's where that will certainly have an opportunity to be reviewed.
Is that what you're suggesting?
I'm trying to understand the way that the village is providing the service and what it's costing the village, because there have been questions that I've received, but there's also been in other municipalities a question about who's subsidizing the usage of EV stations. So I just want to make sure that we're in the right position with it.
So are there other EV stations in the village yet? I mean, I know there used to be one on concession, there used to be one by Kadrinko Kadrinko's, but now they were private for sure. But so are we if somebody's gonna come to Westport for a Sunday drive, are we the place they're gonna get a boost? Still, either, Peter?
Yeah, through your worship, I believe we are the only public charger. Kadrinko's did have one. I'd have to, off the top of my head, I don't remember if that's still public, but currently the municipal parking lot is the only public charger that I know of right quickly off the top of my head.
Okay. So does anybody else want to weigh into this or go ahead?
Not on this
On this topic, let's exhaust this. Okay, well, I don't know where you want to go with it then, just move on.
I'd be interested when we get the budget to understand what it's costing us to provide this, especially because part of the conversation going on right now is about electricity infrastructure, and the cost of electricity is going up. As a municipality, this is one of the things that we're offering as a benefit for coming to Westport. And it is helping with tourism. If you're driving an electric car, then use Westport, as Peter said, as a stopover.
Right.
But I think as council, we should know what it is costing
Fair
us
enough.
to provide that.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yep.
Yep, done. Okay, good discussion, good questions. Counselor Craft, are you on this topic or on this topic? Then go ahead.
Yeah, are all EV chargers gratis?
No.
So what's the opportunity for just recover costs? Does the addition of cost recovery make it not feasible anymore? Or is there an add-on we could put on the current units and recover the basic costs?
Well, I think we should find out what it costs. And then that's a separate discussion that we could have, whether we're gonna change our policy and charge. But I think to go back to our guest speaker, how big's a bread box? Let's find that out first, but we won't lose this train of thought.
Your worship, if that helps, I can answer that question a little bit, if that helps at all.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, so it is about $120 per month for the utility as it is now. So the unit we have does provide all that tracking of the actual consumption and the times. So it's just looks like just shy of $120 per month for that system for those 900 users to connect. And I think that was kind of the similar topic. It's a lower cost for the rest of the items that are within that lot. But we also have units that can be used to charge. One of the answers early on was that most of this level of charger don't have a cost, so we wanted to be comparable around. But it's something that we do have units that have that capability in the future. So we're ready should council wish to make adjustments.
Okay. So you got your answer on how much. I guess if we want to, if somebody wants to change the policy, then when we get to notice of motion, I would expect someone to put a notice of motion forward. Otherwise, we can't move forward with this now, with that, because of change in policy. And I'm fine with that, but that would just fit with you or Councilor Carter's wondering, how do you proceed? We get to notice of motion, put one of those forward, and that would help staff prepare the reports, do the analysis, and bring it forward. And then we could all weigh in on whether we want to charge or not. Okay? Good. Councilor Craft, you're just waiting to get in there, sorry.
My comments through you, Mayor Jones, for Peter, and I really appreciate reports, the quarterly reports in particular. My comments are about ways that for me as a counselor, things to take into consideration that might make them more useful. And it's about data for me. So a good example is the number of cars. If the quarter four report were a culmination of 4 quarters, and so it's the year end numbers as opposed to just the quarter, we'd see what happened over the course of a year. And in addition, I would argue we'd want to compare that to the previous total year. So we could see for cars and for all these other waste collection alarms, all the other data for which this pertains, we'd be able to see change in real time and be able to have conversations. You can be sure there are going to be more cars, electric cars on the road. And we want to have a sense of how growth is happening each quarter. So I would picture it as columns, and each column's got the numbers against the indicators, and we'd see at the end what the total numbers are. So that's, I think, enough of the idea that we really want to be able to use these reports for planning and analysis. And it would be helpful if you just put some thought into what that could look like.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, I think that's fair, not to redo this, but I particularly like the idea of having Q1 through 4 as Qs and then year end.
Yeah.
And then compare it to the previous year, more like
Exactly.
budget numbers than other.
Same idea.
I particularly like that.
One more question, Your
Go
Worship.
ahead.
Through Your Worship. Peter, your numbers in the operating side there, you have 249 unique visitors with 896 total visitors. So these are repeating 3+ times. Am I assuming that's right? So either frequent visitors to Westport or Westport residents.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so so it's probably a good mix. It wouldn't be directly each person coming 4 times, it's likely there's a bunch that are coming 10 or 15 times and know that when they come up once a month, they can set up in there. So there'd be a number of one-offs and then a number of repeat in 2 different categories. So the average repeat is probably a little bit more than 4 times, but it might be only half the number of total users. So just if there was 125 repeat users, maybe they come 5 times, and that's 500 or 600 of your total uses, and then there's the other 200. I can actually get some more detail for sure because we track the units as well as each individual identifier for those vehicles. But it's a good mix of that, Councillor Card, you're correct.
Okay, good. Are we, you have another question? Okay. So we know how to move forward on that. Anybody, anything else? Councillor Carter, you got anything? You're good?
No, just through you, Madam Mayor, just looking at the snow removal, it'd be nice to have the quarterly compared to last year to see where we're at, because we have had so much snow removal this year, so. That's my only comment, not question.
Okay.
One little bit I wanted to mention, that the same as I did on the water, stormwater, I think there should be a risk analysis section overall for public works. It could be pertaining to the budget, we're running our salt is running low, we're worried about snow removal and warm weather this quarter, that kind of thing. I think that should be a standard part of this report.
So, yeah, salt's gone off exponentially. All right, I'll call the question then. All in favor? Okay, that takes us to the stairs, I think, yeah. So that is 6.6. Moved by Councillor Card, seconded by Councillor Cropper, that the committee of the whole received the report entitled Public Works Emergency Replacement Control Room Stairs for information purposes. Self-explanatory? Call the question, all in favor? Okay, carried. 6.7 is the incident at the WTC Communications Center last week, weekend before last. And it's moved by Councillor Cropper, seconded by Councillor Card, that the committee received the report entitled Public Works Incident WTC Communications Center for information purposes. Everybody has an opinion on this. Everybody has an opinion. So I'm just going to jump to the front of the queue. I thought that our manager was on scene. I thought that they did a really good job of recognizing there was an issue, canceling the rest of the games, getting the monitors from maybe Public Works, set a plan with Peter, set a plan in place to do the testing. I thought that the work proceeded. We know that public health was called by a parent. We know that TSSA was called by a parent, which is all fine. I had many phone calls with people quite upset. I walked them through just what I've explained to you. And we know that whether people agree or not, the heaters were turned off by and a cease and desist order was put into place. That may change at some point, but at this point in time, that's the position of TSSA. And people were told to bring their blankets, and we've got 6 to 8 weeks left. We were advised Mr. Evans was quick to out of the gate to confirm that there is in the greenhouse grant that we got, that the Zamboni and the heaters are included in year 1. So we know that we approved the Zamboni several weeks ago, so hopefully we're in the queue there. When incidents like these happen, the operational people with the boots on the ground have to do the best job that they can at the time, and I think they did a really good job. And moving forward, when I always forget that expression, the fossil fuel
burning appliances.
I got a mental block with that. Fuel burning appliances are the propane heaters, and the Zamboni, hopefully in the season of 26, 27, they'll all be gone. So I wanted to do that chronology for the public watching. that the issue was flagged by parents to staff. The response was by the operational people, boots on the ground. And since then, we have put out a public notice. So I'm opening up for any comments or concerns, but it's always easy. I understand the parents, I understand the parents calling me, and I'm not criticizing that. But now that we're a week and a half into it and we have the plan in place, I think that we can just understand that there is a plan in place. Councillor Crapper.
I would say Joe or Councillor Aragona and I are probably celebrating the communications around this particular event. Because as someone outside of that circle, I'm aware of it. The people who called me, I had an answer for, and I think it was in layman's terms, which is, I think, somewhere where we should get challenged mostly. So it was pretty clear. And it was people by and large, so we don't need to cancel all the events in there. Bring your blanket. Never used to be heaters when I was a kid.
I know. And some other arenas, there's still no arenas.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think it's, as you say, you gotta do things quickly, and it could have been it was a crisis averted by quick action and I think reasonable communication.
Yeah. And for you to know that before that communication went out, of course, we ran it by legal. So that we wanted plain speak, but we didn't want to step into something that our lawyer would say, why did you do that? So that's just part of it. Anybody, anything else, Councillor Aragona?
Yeah, I think that I agree with Councillor Crapper on the communication. That was great. I have a question about moving forward. I understand that we do have a plan in place that the causes of potential bad air quality in the arena are slowly being eliminated. But moving forward, a lot of the conversation we have tonight is about risk and mitigating risk and making sure that we're covering bases. Do we have a standard operating procedure that requires us to test air quality in the arena on a regular basis? Are we developing one? Should we be developing one?
So I want to correct something that you said early on, because that's how misinformation. We're not slowly resolving the cause. The heaters are off, so we know it's not the public listening.
Yeah.
I want them to know we acted quickly, and people complain about the cold. Well, that's too bad. And we have two policies. I'll let Chris jump in here. But one is when the Zamboni running above the clock is a huge vent. And so that needs to be open when the Zamboni's running. And we have put a policy in place, and it's gonna let the CAO or Chris or somebody talk about the constant testing that is still going on. So let them fill those blanks in.
Yeah, thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. So since the event and actually that evening and on, the recreation staff have been testing the CO levels, if not every hour, consistently every certain intervals of time. We have a spreadsheet, we're keeping those numbers. As I understand it from Chris, they haven't elevated beyond zero because the heaters are off. Zamboni hasn't been running that period of time that it has before. But even when it has been running, we tried to kind of trial and error and recapture what happened. But obviously with the intervention of TSSA and the decommissioning of the heaters, we couldn't definitively define what the source was of the CO level elevation. I'll let Chris talk about some of the numbers and the testing. But I think going forward, we have a plan for the rest of this season. And there's only one other fuel burning appliance in the arena after these two things are replaced with electric, and that's the propane water heater, I believe. So as easy as putting a CO monitor right around that area, generally speaking, the plume doesn't go outside of that area. We do have some ideas as to put a stopgap in place moving forward, but I'll let Chris talk about what we've done in the interim.
Yeah, because what we want to make sure, Chris, everybody knows is we took it seriously and we put a plan of action in right away. So if there's something to add, go ahead.
Mayor, and I want to say I'm really happy to report that there weren't any serious long-term effects on any of the hockey players that were affected by this, so we're very happy to hear that. Yeah, we're continuing to do testing ongoing. We will for the rest of the season. We're happy to report that those levels are at zero. We'll continue to monitor it though, and take it through to the end of the season. While some of those factors will be eliminated with the renovations and some of the new things that are coming online, like Zamboni, we still, we're working with the health unit to to sort of upgrade our standard operating procedures and perhaps add some other things like CO monitors and things like that, that will even be more directed towards, determining if that becomes a problem again. We think it won't, but it's better to have more, things in place than not enough. So we've,
Agreed.
just gonna keep on working with them. They've been very helpful, very informative. And, so together with them, we're gonna come up with some even tighter, stronger ways of keeping the rink safe for everyone.
So to answer your question, yes. That, I'm not trying to soft pedal it, the CEO came back from holidays on the Tuesday, this happened on the weekend, and it was metal to the pedal throughout to make sure that we've contacted everybody, we took the things offline that need to be offline, health unit is involved, so I'm quite proud of the work that they've all done, that to bring us to this brief tonight for you, that the levels continue to be at 0 and the SOPs are in place. And I'm not hearing complaining from the public. I didn't go to the game Friday night, but we got the caution out in time to bring their blanket, so it is what it is. The coach was 100% supportive, which was important. Anybody, anything else about that? I think we've told each other, we've told the public. And we're not perfect, but the response was immediate. It was by the boots on the ground, and then the senior staff have gotten involved and made sure that it's enshrined in policy. All right, so I'm just going to call the question then. All in favor? Thank you, carried. Okay, so this is a good, wonderful report. 6.8 is the phase 1, the greenhouse grant upgrades to the WTC Communication Center. You might have wondered why it wasn't all blended together, but staff wanted to keep the first report separate so that you got the full idea. And this is moved by Councillor Aragona, seconded by Councillor Hardy. That the Committee of the Whole received the report entitled Public Works Phase 1 GHG Upgrades to the WTC Communication Center. And that the Committee of the Whole recommends that Council direct staff to enter into an agreement with Simcoe, name of the company, to provide services as outlined in their proposal for phase 1 in an amount not to exceed $1,898,000 with a 10% contingency to further the GHG reduction strategy. And that the Committee of the Whole recommends that Council direct staff to include the option to replace the header and mains, switch to glycol, and dispose of the brine solution in an attempt not to exceed 168,000 plus HST with a 10% contingency. If you think storm drains was an interesting topic, now you're into the brine. Questions, comments, Councillor Crapper, and then Councillor Aragona. And then
So
Curtis.
practical one for me is the projected cost beyond the $2 million grant. And if we approve phase 1, are we de facto going into the a debt situation, and if so, how much would that look like?
Okay, Councillor CAO.
Yep, thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, I'll defer to Peter. I think he's prepared for this question.
All right, go ahead, Peter.
Sorry, Worship, I think the question cut out right at an inopportune time, but my understanding was it was around funding and whether this would put the village in a debt situation at the end of it.
Yeah. And
So
what is like clear? What I'd like to know is, do we know what's our best guess at the total cost of the project, including phase 1, but not exclusive to that? So if we enter into phase 1, if we approve this motion, are we then bound for additional costs, and what are those projected to be?
Go ahead, Peter.
So the total project cost was I think around 3.4 million. The phase 1 is standalone in the sense it doesn't tie us in anything further. It could cease at that point. It's worth noting that the Zamboni was also part of that 3.4 million, and that's already been committed to and ordered by the village. But beyond that, this is the new ice plant, the new HVAC, heat recovery, new heaters for processed water and Zamboni water, all in one package, kind of the ice plant. To further the GHG study, there are some more items that would be brought back to council at future for their consideration.
Okay, so to follow, then to be clear, if we approve what's being requested tonight, it'll get us through phase one and it'll all be paid for by the grant.
Through your worship, I'd have to double check the exact percentages. We're in the late stages of a different application as council directed. We're still looking for all funding sources for that. I don't have the exact amount that the village is responsible for at this time. It was included with the grant announcement earlier on. I'd have to double check, but this grant was a very high percentage grant for the municipality. The vast majority is being funded by this grant. There's some opportunity to increase that percentage that's being funded by third-party outside sources, as well as opportunities to make the funding that the village has to be done as low as possible. So I don't have the exact number, but it is a low percentage of this phase.
When would you have the exact number?
Your worship, I think I can get an estimate based on percentages for council, but
Okay.
the exact amount will depend most heavily on future grants and whether those contingencies need to be brought in, what they find as they come through. But by council, I can have a good estimate.
It's helpful. I got lost. Councillor Erdman, I think.
Yeah, I'm two questions through you, Madam Mayor, to Peter. One about timing and one about impact. So if this is approved this evening and the PO is issued, how soon can we expect the work to be in? And the second part is, will that upgrade work affect arena operations, any recreation programs that we have planned, or anything else that's happening through 2026?
Good questions. Go ahead, Peter.
So yeah, through your worship, time is of the essence for this project, certainly. The goal is to start work as soon as the arena shuts down for its regular summer season, and the target date for being completely back online is Labor Day.
So
And the second question? Do you guys want to ask them again?
yeah, so the second half of that, Peter, is will this upgrade work affect any recreation programs that we're running in the arena over the summer, or any other programs that would be happening in the arena? So there's for example, Paint the Summer is coming up and things like that.
Pickleball.
Pickleball, yeah.
My apologies, Councillor Gar, I missed that summer part. So I hadn't something that I'd asked specifically to the contractor. I've only been generally aware of similar projects. The recreation manager may be able to speak if he's got any experience, but most of this work is all within the industrial areas of the facility in the compressor room. So staging outside potentially, depending on when shipments come in and out, but nothing that we've talked about indicates that we'd have a major impact to the facility. The whole building wouldn't be closed. The work would be focused in those industrial areas.
So the sticky point's going to be the responsibility of the funding from the village. I'm reading, you're not here, I'm reading the room for you. So Councillor Card's got a question, but you could be mulling that over. Go ahead.
Through your worship. Peter, I'm looking at the heat recovery, which, I mean, generally is a great idea whenever you can do something green in any facility. But I'm not sure whether, when I hear the word ductwork, I'm thinking, is this a warm air system to heat the bleachers that's generated from a boiler or whatever, or just strictly from heat recovery in the compressor room?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so through your so it is not strictly through the heat recovery from the facility. There's a backup 90 kilowatt boiler meant to provide additional heat. It is air heat, so unlike the radiant heaters that are there currently, there is going to be warm air. We did bring this up at one of our last meetings to see what impact on facility and ice, and their description was their location in relation to both the ice surface and the dehumidifier would be designed to minimize that impact. What we are waiting for is just a list of other facilities with the similar setup, the similar connection. but we're confident that this is a well-designed system.
Thank you.
So, so thank you for that, Peter. So between now and council, we need you to, because you're looking for pre-budget approval, and yet we don't have the amount that's being sought.
Mhm.
So we really, and you might not to be able to give us the specific, but at minimum, we want the worst case scenario. If we don't get any more grants, then what is that? And you know, particularly for a couple of councillors, that they're always uncomfortable giving pre-budget approval. So I'd encourage staff to do as good, as tight a job as you can. Because we also understand the challenge of getting the work done once the ice goes out. We know that's a real short period of time. We also know that we're waiting for our 2024 audit, which we hope will be in the next month. And we all decided we didn't want to proceed with our 26 budget until we had the 24 audit done. So it's just many competing things happening at once for council. So I think enough said, do the best you can to tighten up what the financial implications are for the village, worst case scenario by council to proceed with that. Councillor Carter.
I guess as a follow-up through you, Madam Mayor, talking about phase one, does all of that have to be encompassed then? If we are uncomfortable with the money amount, are there certain things that can be taken off of phase one, or is it a package deal?
Yeah, through your worship, it is the entire ice plant. There isn't really anything that can come off. Each component here is at end of life. The recreation manager maybe will speak to a little more. It's worth reminding council that the greenhouse gas reduction was a primary driver from the grant, but the very important for the village is that these compressors are already at the end of estimated end of useful life. The condensers, the chillers are all there. In fact, the compressors were already from a facility that had decided to replace them. I want to say more than a decade ago. So the funding source for this grant is very advantageous for both the greenhouse gas emissions reduction targets, but also for the village to replace this critical asset for pennies on the dollar. I can get that actual amount. I have the amount for the total project based on the application for the GICB, but that wouldn't be part of this phase. I just got to work out the ratios, exactly what that is. So if it helps, so over the next 10 years, that amount is about $600,000 over 10 years. But that's with all phases, Zamboni, no additional funding within that piece.
Okay, well, we'll let you firm that up, bring it back by way of report so that we're not putting you on the spot and you say it off the top of your head. Councillor Carter.
Through your worship. Yes, and looking at some of the, I guess the one option that we see there is the header system. And I think it's, having looked at it myself, not being an expert, but rust is rust. I wouldn't be tempted to eliminate that part of the project because I think it's just as key for total success as anything Peter's mentioned. I know that the compressors, as Peter said, would make second-class boat anchors right now. We're very, very lucky that they've lasted as long as they have. And to get any kind of funding at all is better than to get a surprise that you are not prepared for at all. I think Peter and the company he's using have done an excellent job of putting together a project that is workable and absolutely necessary for the functioning of the arena. I mean, any one of those components, if we leave it out, could cripple us down the road. So even if we have to bite the bullet a little bit over 10 years or whatever, I mean, we have some very resourceful staff that'll come up with a plan to help us through that phase. So I wouldn't be tempted at all to short any of that project from what I can see.
Okay, well, we'll we'll pick the conversation back up in 2 weeks. So thanks for everybody's input. I think so. What is the verb? I just find it difficult to recommend to council until we know the money. I think we should defer it and not for the hockey and figure skating world to be upset and the other thing, it's just the way it's written, it's a gap. And I heard you, Councillor Card, that, you know, it's a gift getting this money because we knew it was gonna be out of our bank account, but it would be better for us to defer and bring it back at committee, council. All right, so that's fine with everybody. So could I just have a motion to defer until council? Councilor Cardy and Councilor Card. It was a great discussion, but we'll just get that one piece more. So I'll just call the deferral. All in favor? Great, thank you. Okay, and 6.9 is the utilities truck replacement update. Moved by Councilor Cardy, seconded by Councilor Aragona, that committee of the whole received the report entitled Public Works Utilities Truck Number 1 Replacement Update. And the committee of the whole recommend the council direct staff to swap the unit ordered with option number 1 being a gasoline only powered Ford F-150. Go ahead.
It makes complete sense. We'd already approved an electric vehicle.
Yes.
This one's $15,000 cheaper, so
Yeah.
I
It's a
can't see
no-brainer.
any, that would be an objection.
Yeah. Go ahead.
The only variable being the rebates that are being discussed for electric cars. So I don't know what the numbers are exactly, but if that closed the gap significantly, and Peter, I assume that was announced after you'd written this briefing note. Could I ask through you to Peter, any thoughts on the rebates for electric vehicles and whether it changes your thinking on this?
It's not available.
It's not.
It's not the model's not available.
No, I know, but for a different electric truck, which was one of the other options, and it was the cost of
Okay,
that.
I'm sorry, go
was the
ahead.
barrier.
I didn't mean to
Yeah.
interrupt you.
Through your worship, so my understanding is the new announced funding source is for vehicles that are kind of at a lower price point, and it would not close the gap significantly for a utility type vehicle, pickup truck. The other ones in the market are significantly more expensive than the Lightning was. So it would have been there was no chance for it to close that gap, nor do I think any of those types of vehicles are eligible for this grant either, although I don't know if that's finalized.
Okay, good enough. All right, so go ahead. I will wait till council, but I'll just call this motion now. All in favor? Carried. So we've included in the package the response from the FCAC in regard to the BMO closing. So it's just given to you for information. So it's moved by Councilor Aragon, seconded by Councilor Carney. The committee of the whole received the letter from FCAC regarding the BMO closure for information purposes. Just call it all in favor, carried. Now, I'm sorry, Councilor Aragon, I sit on so many councils and committees and boards. Our notice of motion in Westport comes at council.
Council, yeah.
So that's all right?
Yeah.
You'll put that notice of motion forward at council? All
Mhm.
right, very good. So that brings us to any announcements?
Library board had a meeting this week and we got a lot on our plate, and I'm wondering, I had asked in advance of this meeting if we could get an update on the renovation and Trillium grant. Is that something we could squeeze in here?
Sure, it's an
Thank you.
information item. When are we building that ramp, Mr. Evans?
Yeah, so it's we're still waiting for equipment to be on site. It should be on site this week. We've got some removals we can do, but we're well on track for the target. I don't have a final date for council as of yet, but we're
Okay,
still working on it.
I missed a little bit of that. What's on site? What are we waiting for? I thought we were getting a contractor in to do it.
We are getting contracting to do it. We should be seeing equipment on site within the next week or two. We were hoping for a January start. Obviously, we're into February now, but the benefit is going to be some better weather as well. But
Go ahead.
And just as an information item, what we've decided to do on the library, because there are elements inside the library that we need to do concurrently with the children's room, etc., is we're going to announce shortly a person who's going to assist us as project manager. So it's not people with limited ability on the board that are doing it, but somebody who we will put in touch directly with you, Peter, on behalf of the board. And I think it would start with our chair, that person, and you having just so you know who it is. There'll be things that you and I have talked about that it'll be helpful to have somebody on the inside. So that you guys can coordinate when you're busted through a wall and we're trying to build, move books and all that kind of stuff. That's just information.
Oh, well, it's good. It's a single point of contact,
Yeah.
which is nice, and everybody on the board knows it's a single point of contact. That's why I read in what you were saying.
It's a lovely idea.
Very good. Any other announcements, Councillor?
Yeah, just to remind everybody that FODA's doing Family Day at the arena. There'll be some little bit of food to eat and some games for the kids and a skate. So
11 to 2?
11 till 2.
Very good.
On
Bring
Sunday
your
or
button.
Monday?
Family Day Monday this
Monday,
time.
okay, Monday.
It had to do with availability of the rink this time around. Anybody else? Okay, any questions from the public? Susan, any questions from the media?
Yeah, this is simple, I just wanna make sure I got it right, in terms of the, ability to respond first. In the village, did you say the time is, reduced from 18 minutes as a response to 8 minutes?
Yeah.
18 to
Yeah,
8, okay,
yeah.
that's great.
Yeah.
And then I just have one other question, which is wastewater report will come later. So we didn't talk about wastewater today.
It was all in one
Water.
report? It's all in the same report?
I didn't see anything on wastewater specifically. I saw stormwater and water, but not wastewater.
Yeah.
Was wastewater in there? Am I losing it?
No. Correct me if I'm wrong, Peter, sorry, through you, Madam Mayor, wastewater report is due by the end of March, is that right?
Oh, okay. Peter?
So it says.
That's correct. Wastewater report is done by a third party and it's I think there was a line in the report that it'll to follow.
Okay,
Good catch.
no, just so we don't miss anything. Thank you.
All right, very good. So that brings us to adjournment, moved by Councillor Cardy, seconded by Councillor Aragona, that this meeting of the Committee of the Whole of the Village of Westport be adjourned at 6:45? 6:45 PM. All in favor? Carried. That was a great meeting, team.